Hello, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World Talks. Karol Navroski was sworn in on Wednesday as Poland's next president. What will his term look like? What are his plans? And why is the Polish Prime Minister so upset about it? To talk about it all, we're joined by Stuart Dowell, political editor at TVP World. Good evening.
Evening.
Stuart, you wrote quite a big opinion piece on Poland's new president. Now, what's your first impression of this relatively unknown politician?
First impressions were formed a few months ago, and those have been confirmed in yesterday at his swearing-in. Several interesting things at his swearing-in that he used his address principally to attack the government and appear as more of a prime minister himself. It's quite typical, I think, for new presidents to want to assume as much executive power as possible, and we saw that yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Right. So now, what will this cohabitation with Donald Tusk's government look like?
Well, I think it will be dictated, of course, by polarisation that we've seen in Poland for 20 years. And what's interesting is that now we're seeing what I believe is a kind of a peak form of this polarisation, a late form of a final phase of polarisation. And I think what we're going to see is a kind of a grotesque form of legislative tennis in which each side is going to be throwing bills across from the palace to the Prime Minister's office and from Parliament back again. This will be, of course, for each side to show that the other side is a spoiler and an obstructionist.
Right, because the new president has already announced his initiatives concerning lowering taxes and the central communications hub. Right, so these are popular demands. That's what people want, I guess.
Yeah, and that's why I describe it as a grotesque form of the polarisation, because these bills are designed to fail. Of course, Karol Navroski knows that his very attractive proposals, tax proposals, which for sure would benefit families with children, particularly because he's proposed 0% tax for families with 2 children and over. He's proposed increasing the threshold for the second tax level up to 140,000 zloty. These are very generous allowances and would certainly be welcomed by the people affected. But of course, there's no expectation that these bills would be passed by the Sejm. They're simply the economics minister would surely say that they're simply too expensive, and in that way he'll be able to show the government as obstructing these bills.
Okay, so he'll show that the government is obstructing his initiatives, but you wrote that his ultimate goal is to bring Donald Tusk's government down. Now, how can he hope to achieve it? Well, by showing through presenting these bills that the government's being obstructionist. I assume that it's intended to increase the unpopularity of the government, and then as the unpopularity increases, and if we see that in the parliamentary polls, and also in the trust levels in the government, it's going to put huge pressure on the constituent parties within the coalition. And if that happens, then we may see them starting to rethink, do they want to be in the coalition? Would it be better in the run-up to the parliamentary elections in 2027? You're talking about whole parties or just, particular MPs
parties.
Migrating?
Parties.
Parties.
For example...
So which party is the weak link, in your opinion?
I think they're all weak links. The left, for example, is polling slightly above the 5% threshold to enter the parliament, which is good for them.
But if they see if the government becomes increasingly unpopular and their polling falls below the 5% level, then they have to ask themselves a very difficult question. The obvious escape route for the left is an electoral alliance with the Razem party, which is further to the left on the political spectrum and is outside of the coalition. And if that kind of coalition alliance is considered, it might be a condition from Adrian Zandberg and Razem that the left at first leave the coalition in order to enter such an alliance. That in itself would be a collapse of the coalition. Let's take, for example, Szymon Hołownia's Polska...
But wait. Razem is not in the coalition.
No, Razem's not in the coalition. It might be a condition from that party to the left that in order to form their electoral alliance for the parliamentary election 2027, that the left leave the governing coalition.
As we're talking about political allies, will the new president be more independent from his allies than the last one?
More independent from Law and Justice and Jarosław Kaczynski? It's a very interesting question. There are some factors to suggest that he might be more independent. During the campaign, for example, on many points, he differed, deviated and moved away from typical law and justice point, particularly on foreign policy, for example, with his attitude towards Ukraine's membership of NATO and the European Union. From the start of the war, Law and Justice had been very positive about Ukraine's membership in international alliances and organisations. Karol Navroski is not. And many commentators during the campaign were suggesting that, in fact, he appears to be much more of a closer to confederation policies.
Well, Confederation is openly against supporting Ukraine in many ways, apart from military support. But Karol Nawrocki, well, he set some conditions, right? He will support Ukraine if some historical issues are settled. So, do you think it goes beyond that?
I think that Karol Nawrocki, unlike Andrzej Duda, has the ambition, the determination, and the character to go beyond a role of simply being a partisan and loyal president representing the interests of Law and Justice and Jarosław Kaczynski. I think it's possible and even likely that he may try to gain the supremacy of the right in Poland and bring together the further right Konfederacja and the typical right, Law and Justice.
But that would be an incredibly ambitious goal, given the fact that most of his aides in his presidential office, they are former members of Law and Justice, right?
Yes, but everyone is expecting Jarosław Kaczynski to retire soon, and it means that the...
Oh, we've heard that for the last, 10 years or more. So.
10 years ago, he was 10 years younger, and he's closer to... he's beyond retirement age, but still active, of course. But there are many scenarios of what could happen on the Polish right. At the moment, it looks like Jarosław Kaczynski is trying to drive a wedge between the two factions that make up the Konfederacja party, trying to drive a wedge between the typically nationalist Ruch Narodowy or national movement and the Sławomir Menczen's libertarian New Hope party. There's even speculation on the other side of the right that former Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki may try to form a party, a new centre-right formation with PSL. Of course, this is just speculation at the moment. But if that does happen, that may even be convenient for Jarosław Kaczynski if indeed Law and Justice came to some kind of agreement with that new party. It would allow Law and Justice to move into the further right space and with policies that are typically attractive to Konfederacja voters.
Stuart, you say you know this new Poland's president a little already. Karol Navroski says he wants to change the Polish constitution. Now, apart from the fact that many lawyers say it's impossible because the constitution does not envisage such a possibility to be replaced by any other document, what will this constitution look like?
You're right. You're right to say it's unlikely. The Sejm requires a two-thirds majority to make any changes to the constitution. That's obviously not going to happen in this parliament, and unlikely in one after 2027. Changing the constitution has been a goal for Law and Justice and the right in general. Paweł Kukiz as well talked a lot about this for many years. The form it would take, I think that the right want to increase the powers and executive of the president to make the Polish system a more presidential system where the president really sets the agenda, and also to change the tone of the constitution to reflect Christian Catholic values and other traditional values.
Well, that was a very enriching discussion, Stuart. Thank you very much. Stuart Dowell, political editor at TVP World, was our guest this evening. And thank you for watching, and stay with us for much more interviews, news, analyses, and all that you wish here on TVP World.